Hey, welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I'm your host, Jeff Hootselle. I'm the Chief Cloud Officer with Auditmacs. Hey, as you guys know, Tech Talk, we're talking weekly to IT leaders across the country. We've had some great guests on the show. We continue to have folks with really unique perspectives every week. Today is no different. We've got an awesome guest today coming to us from Cleveland, Ohio, from the Buckeye State. So we've got Mike McGill. Mike is with the Medical Service Company. He's the CIO. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff. Great to be here.
Yeah, happy to be here. I'm a former Buckeye, myself, so I always like guys from Ohio. So great to see you on here.
All right.
So hey, I'd love to hear, maybe from the beginning, folks that aren't familiar with Medical Service Company, just give us a little overview of the company and kind of what makes you guys unique.
Yeah, I would love to. So Medical Service Company, we're a home medical equipment provider. So we're in the healthcare space. We live at the end of the spectrum of home care. So as patients get discharged from hospitals or other clinical environments, we provide the home medical equipment and clinical services to help them manage their disease state. So think sleep apnea, oxygen, COPD. So we specialize in respiratory services, and we have 35 locations here in the Midwest throughout 7 states. Really proud of the services we provide and how we help our patients.
That's great. And you guys are a third generation family business, so you've been around for a long time and seen a lot of things. I'm guessing you haven't seen this situation we're in before here with this global pandemic. I'm curious, how's the shift been for you guys with everything that's happened with the pandemic, pushing you guys remote and everything else? What's that been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're facing the same challenges a lot of other organizations are facing, and proud of what we've been able to do. They say never let a good crisis go to waste. And I think we've exemplified that at Medical Service Companies. We've been able to pivot. We've done a lot of things that a lot of other organizations did. We got our employees home as quickly as possible to keep them safe. And in order to keep our patients safe, we shifted very quickly to a telemed model. Previously, all of the equipment and services we set up were face-to-face visits. Our respiratory therapists, our clinicians, our medical equipment technicians either invited people into our offices or went into their homes to set them up on their medical equipment. COVID forced us to shift to a telemed model, and we did it pretty quickly. And I would say of all of the new innovations we've done that COVID has kind of helped us, forced our hand a little bit, that definitely shifting to a telemed model was the most important one that we did.
Yeah, so that's interesting. We've had a lot of companies that have made that shift to telemedicine as well. I'm curious what you think kind of the lasting legacy of this will be. I mean, ideally we'll have a vaccine, things kind of go back to normal slowly and eventually, but what kind of things do you think will stick, with what we've learned and what we've experienced through COVID, and what kind of things do you think will go back to kind of the way we did them before?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. I mean, this is it. What is normal? What's normal going to be when this is over? I mean, it's definitely going to be a new normal. As best as I can tell, I think we will continue to offer telemed services. At some point there may be some more face-to-face as vaccines are introduced and it becomes safer to do that. But I think there'll always be a large percentage of telemed. I think throughout healthcare, we're seeing that telemed works. The outcomes of telemed are good. Patients are benefiting from it. It's more convenient for them and safer for them. So there'll always be a higher degree of telemedicine and digital medical services that we're offering. And then I think just in a cultural standpoint for our employees and as an organization, prior to COVID, we had 10% of our team working from home, and now we have 80% of our team working from home. And just like with healthcare, we're seeing that it works. Our team members are productive and happy, and they enjoy working from home, and we're starting to shift in that direction. So I think those will be the biggest changes for us, both for our patients and our employees, just more remote, more digital.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the other interesting side of this thing that we don't talk about a lot is the leadership side of it, right? It's a very different thing. Like I said, you've had a really successful career in IT and a leadership capacity and done this for a long time, but, shifting everybody remote, it's a different style, I think, that asks for that. If managing people remotely and working remotely, what's kind of your philosophy from a leadership or management standpoint that you kind of go by as we kind of go through this new process of figuring out how to manage our teams and keep the culture intact?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think from a leadership standpoint, as you kind of move along in your career, it becomes less about the tech and more about, the soft skills, emotional intelligence, servant leadership. From a technology standpoint, if I'm the smartest guy in the room with other technologists, I've not done a good job assembling a good team. I have great people on my team that are super smart from a technology standpoint. And my job is to interface with the business and understand what the priorities of the organization are and how technology can help us meet those goals that we have organizationally. So I have really smart people on my team. When COVID hit and I kind of assembled the team, it's like, okay, we have to get everybody home. How do we do this as quickly as possible? So again, from a leadership standpoint, it just, you have to communicate well with the business. And all of those skills that you hear about, those soft skills, emotional intelligence, servant leadership, they all come into play. And, I'd like to think over time that trying to be emotionally intelligent has helped build a trust with other business leaders so that when something like COVID hits or when something like telemedicine it comes into play, that they're comfortable coming to IT and saying, all right, here's what we need to do. And there's a level of trust and great communication to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the organization.
No, it's great. You talk about meeting people's needs. I mean, there's certainly the technical aspect of that, of give them the right tools, give them these cloud-based apps that they can access from everywhere, let them use the Zooms and Teams and things like that to communicate. And that's one aspect of your job. The other side is really that it's really the emotional well-being and the mental health of the people that are under your charge as well, right? So I know we've talked before, you're a big proponent of kind of this the idea of mindfulness and the practice of Stoicism and that. Talk about that a little bit and how that plays into just either your personal perspective or how you lead your team.
Yeah, it's Stoicism. It's I don't want to say it's getting out there. I mean, it's, you'll typically talk to an IT or technical person and start riffing on Stoicism. But for me, Stoicism has been one of the most valuable practices that I was fortunate to stumble upon. And, Stoicism, for those who don't know, it was kind of an ancient Roman philosophy. We're going back a couple thousand years, and the Stoics were teachers and proponents of, kind of strengthening your will. They had a series of practices that help you kind of become more objective, more accepting of what's happening around you, more unselfish, which I think for us in IT is great. IT can be stressful. Things go down, infrastructure goes down, the mail server's down, the code is buggy, things aren't working the way we want it to. The Stoicism helps us to kind of navigate that minefield in a much more objective way. Something happens, we realize, we look at it and say, what do we have control and what do we not have control of in this situation? And then we start working on the things we have control over. So Stoicism's been really valuable for me. Probably about a good 4 or 5 years ago, I read a book called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday,
Sure,
which was my introduction to Stoicism. And then there's a long winding path you can go down once you kind of get introduced to Stoicism, but really valuable practice. You mentioned mindfulness, again, another one of those kind of blanket practices that's going to benefit all areas of your life. Again, just that objectivity to be able to be mindful in a situation when a crisis arises, to not get pulled into the emotional aspect of it, but just to be able to gain a little bit of space between the stimulus and the response that you have to it, and kind of choose a more objective, calm response when a situation arises. Again, I think for us in IT, when there could be a lot of crisis management, just to be able to be stoic and mindful when those situations arise is just going to benefit you personally a lot. And to get, you come across as a better leader. You're not getting angry. You're not getting stressed. You're not, pulling yourself into the emotional side of it. You're maintaining your objectivity. So again, both Stoicism and mindfulness, really valuable practices I would recommend anyone. And, mindfulness can be nothing more than a 10-minute guided meditation each day. Get Calm, get Headspace, get any of those apps, and, just commit yourself to a 10-minute guided meditation. It could be really powerful.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, certainly you mentioned as fires come up in the workplace, it's valuable, but the way our society kind of is right now, and as much as we're bombarded with negative news, and everyone's got a voice on social media, and not always the most positive ones out there. That ability to kind of separate the emotional and not be triggered by things that are said out there, and kind of keep your balance and your perspective is a very powerful thing.
Yeah, it is, and that's where again it becomes more than just about work. It just becomes about your life, and you're bringing up those words, triggered, and cancel culture, and a lot of that stuff that's going on now. People getting angry, and there's things to be passionate about. It's certainly not about not being passionate, but it's about not letting yourself be guided by your emotion, and being able to be a little more again objective and accepting when things happen.
I think that's great. And kind of that mindset of gratitude, I think, is always helpful. And obviously, we're grateful for folks like you that come and join us here. And for folks that want to find out and connect with you, Mike, or find out more about the company, where can they go to find out more about Medical Service Company?
Great places just to start with the websites. If you want to learn more about Medical Service Company and the great work we're doing, you can find us at medicalserviceco.com. It's a great place to start to kind of see what we're doing and what we're up to and how we're taking care of our patients.
All right, perfect. Well, Mike, hey, thanks so much for joining us this morning from out in Ohio. We appreciate you and appreciate all the insights. I'm going to go brush up on my Seneca and Epictetus here when we get off this, but nice. I really appreciate it.
Some Stoics. That's good.
There you go.
Thanks for having me on, Jeff.
You got it. Thanks, Mike, and thank you guys for joining us as well. Look forward to catching you in the next one.